can't spend it unless the contingency happens. But the appropriation is not contingent. That appropriation for the full amount of $20,060,071 is totally appropriated and goes on the tax recap as a total appropriation. So now the second question is our vote clear enough? And while reasonable people might differ, since that's the only legal interpretation, that's the only interpretation there can be, and it certainly is written in such a way that it can be interpreted that way. And a number of us spent a considerable amount of time, since that's what I thought the answer was. A lot of lawyers spent a lot of time this afternoon confirming that Ward is right on this, and we do not have to reopen, go back, tinker with the language, or do anything else under Article 31. And among those persons that did that, spent that time this afternoon, in addition to me, is the town council, who shares my opinion. And the town council's opinion is based on an opinion received from Ropes and Gray from Henry Hall, who is a preeminent bond counsel. He's also moderator of the town of Milton, of Belmont, one of my partners. Just to be sure, just in case there are any doubting Thomases, Mr. Flynn also spoke with Mr. Harry Grossman, who's the chief of the Property Tax Bureau, who issues the opinions that you cannot have an appropriation that is contingent, and he shares our view that as long as everybody agrees, consistent with all our other contingencies, that the contingency is on expending the appropriation, that we don't have a problem as far as the Department of Revenue is concerned. So with that explanation, and if anybody didn't get it, I'll be happy, and tonight, with incredible pressure from a number of people who don't like the fact that we don't have any breaks anymore, I was just testing you out, we will probably have a break. We can discuss it at the break. So we're going to move on to Article 32, but before we do, I'm going to recognize the chair of the school committee, Mary Cobb.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just wanted to take this opportunity at the beginning of the town meeting on behalf of the school committee members and myself to thank the selectmen, the warrant committee, and the town meeting members for their very thoughtful discussion on Article 31 and the amendments that were attached to it. It is appreciated. Thank you very much.
Article 32 is to see if the town will vote pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E, 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Laws, to authorize the school department to expend a sum of money not to exceed $60,000 in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1997, for the purpose of the operation of the preschool program for regular education students in the Milton Public Schools from the revolving account established by vote of the 1994 annual town meeting under Article 26, the 1995 annual town meeting under Article 39, and the 1996 annual town meeting under Article 41, and to act on anything relating thereto. And I'm going to recognize Mary Cobb. On these revolving fund accounts, it is required that there be a report. And that can be done a couple of ways, and I think for the future we're going to get the reports in the annual report. But since they aren't there, there are 4 of these where we're going to have to receive a report, and Mary, you get to do the first one.
Thank you. It's very short. And in fact, it's dated May 5th. I think we were a little optimistic. It's to the town of Milton Board.
I wasn't where we were sharing. By way of explanation, Mary Fitzgerald, Precinct 4. He doesn't know me. Just by way of clarification, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I had requested at the last town meeting for the ability to speak to this issue, and I have to especially thank you, Mr. Moderator, so that now I can get up after motherhood and apple pie and not disagree, but make a couple of points that perhaps the Board of Selectmen would rather have me not make. Just one comment before I get to my remarks about Mr. Neely saying that the final arbiter will be the the Board of Appeals. I don't think the Board of Appeals will make a judgment on the monetary benefit to the town. I think they will make a judgment on the land, and that's perfectly appropriate. I am not totally in favor of the Quarry Hills for one reason. I don't have the feeling that we have investigated all of the other options, and after precluding or finding reasons that those other options won't work, have decided that Quarry Hills is the best option. That may indeed be the case, but I get the feeling that we're rushing a little bit here. I would like it to come back to town meeting if possible, if the time frame were to allow it, but I won't make that something that will tie the selectmen's hands. I do have confidence in them. But this is a huge, huge decision that we are making for this town. And I think as much as possible, we would like to hear an explanation of why Quarry Hills was better than A, B, C, and D. My belief is the present cost to close the landfill, given the fact that there is a chance that we not only would get the fill or most of it for free, if not being paid for it, would be in the order of more like $4 million. And just to use a couple of illustrations, my perception from the different things that I've read is the town would be using about 650 cubic yards of fill. If we were to get the money that Quarry Hills is saying that it has to receive in order to make their project work, which is $14 a cubic yard, the town of Milton would receive $9,100,000. If it were to come in at $9, which is the figure which is being talked about now, we would receive $5,850,000. I don't presume to say that I know if that can work. I know it's not as simple as just putting it in a pile somewhere. That alone would be a problem. I know that there are lots of things that I'm not aware of. But I would like to hear the Board of Selectmen be able to stand up and say, we have looked at this, and these are the reasons why. I mean, because even at $6 million, if it cost us $4 million, we might be putting some money in the bank. And I have to know that, I personally, as a town meeting member, would like to know that that's not a possibility before we go to another option. So I guess what I would like to ask is a pledge from the Board of Selectmen that they will look at all of those things and make a case for each of them, and then come to a conclusion for what they think is the best for Milton. I would love it to come back to town meeting so that they could tell all of us what they feel the best option is, and that then we all could have a part in it. But at a minimum, I would second the other gentleman's request that we have some type of a large public hearing, and I would request that they give those different scenarios to us at that time before they sign a lease with Quarry Hills. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Him and then you, and then...
Paul Vaughn of Precinct 8. The questions and legitimate concerns of the people in Precinct 8 are in no way questioning and being unappreciative of the hard efforts of the committees involved in this matter. But one of the previous speakers mentioned that the town of Milton will have no responsibility at all. There's a legitimate question here in that, what if something does happen? We're dealing with gases, we're dealing with fill, etc. What if something happens? What if this organization goes belly up, i.e. bankruptcy? Who picks up the tab? Does it fall back on Milton? Do we have a repeat of Granite Place? I'd like some comments on it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, now, we're sort of accumulating potential comments. You still have to respond to Mary and that gentleman, but we can get more at the same time. Why don't we hear from Mr. Livingston, then we're going to go to Mr. Oldfield, who had his hand up first, then John Michael Shields, and then we'll go back to the Board of Selectmen to answer any loose ends. Mr. Livingston, you're recognized.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Livingston, Precinct 8. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here today and not tomorrow. I'm here for your welfare and not for your car fare. I have this elixir, Livingston's elixir. This elixir will take care of wrinkles, blemishes, anything that ails you. This will take care of it. I'm telling you now. I mean, stress, backache, pain, any disease you might have, try the Livingston elixir. It'll take care of it. Now, I'm telling you this, if you'll buy this from me, with no further questions asked or a whole lot of questions unanswered, I'll build a golf course on the landfill. Because this is what you're buying into, a pig and a poke. A lot of answers have not been given or an opportunity for the people to really participate. What I am not questioning the trust of our elected officials. I am an elected official. I think I trust myself. I may be a critic of town government as stated in the paper, but that's what democracy is all about. Article 3 says we speak as a united voice. Sounded like it came out of the Kremlin to me, because they're the only ones that spoke with a united voice. Here, we speak as individuals. It's a democracy. The health and safety of my children who live less than 700 feet away from the landfill is part of what this is all about. If it's a NIMBY issue, don't blame me, because I have no problem with something going in my backyard. I have no problem with a golf course going in my backyard. I have no problem with seeing the diamond in the rough that is going to take the town of Milton's financial, what we're suffering in these days. We're always in a financial crisis, and we have to do something in a crisis mode, and put us on solid footing. I have no problem with seeing the investment of that diamond being formulated and cut and chipped so that Milton will have a Hope diamond in its backyard. I have no problem with those things, ladies and gentlemen. What I do have a problem with, number one, there was talk about, all this secret negotiation behind the scenes for a supermarket. We were going to build a supermarket. All of a sudden, Shaw's wanted in, Roach wanted in, Star wanted in, Purity Supreme wanted in. Guess what? No supermarket. So, when you hear about this golf course that we're going to get, everyone wants in, and you want to know why they want in, ladies and gentlemen? Because there's a glut of solid fill, there's a glut of dirt in Boston. I don't care, you name the contractor, whether it be Cashman, Perini, Fishback and Moore, Mass Electric, name them all. They're desperate to get rid of solid fill. And where is the prime location for it to go? Milton, 6 minutes away. Wouldn't you like to make 50 runs a day to Milton to dump it at $30 a ton? Or $70 a ton, or $100 a ton, or would you prefer only being able to make a few runs because you're taking it to Chicopee, Duxbury, Cohasset, Situate, and everywhere else? Ladies and gentlemen, I was told by Mr. Neely we're not in the commodities market, okay, when it comes to this taking in the solid fill for the dump. But we should be, because I'm telling you now, this dump, let me give you some, I'll throw some figures at you, all right? And I know I'm not on the warrant committee, and they all say before I get up and speak here and say anything and question the budget and try and cut this from the lighting budget and cut that from the lighting, I should go on the warrant committee. And they castigate me when I get up here. But ladies and gentlemen, I have a young family, and I can volunteer my time to you to come to town meeting, to read the warrant, and make some questions. I accepted my criticism very well the other night, very graciously. And I think when I have a question about the warrant, that should be the same feeling. Now, if we're getting $30 a ton, 15 tons a truck, because 18-wheelers take 15 to 20 tons, that's $450 a truck, times 100 trucks a day, that's 45,000 trucks, times 30 trucks a month, that's $1,350,000, okay? Times 12 months, that's $16,200,000, ladies and gentlemen. That will sure as heck defray the cost of closing and capping your landfill. But let me tell you how it's going to be done for nothing. And this is no snake oil pitch. This is what I heard, and nothing's been said. The governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts came out 2 years ago. He signed special legislation for $41 million to help the 91 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts defray the cost of closing and capping their landfills. $41 million doesn't scratch the surface, but it's there. The next thing the governor did, he was running for public office, had a public press conference, and signed special legislation giving the 91 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts first dibs on the gray clay from the big dig. Okay? You have first dibs on those. You file for it, you get it. That also reduces the cost of closing and capping your landfill. Now, we get the $41 million. Milton's landfill is $9.2 million to close and cap. Still hasn't come down. We get the option for first refusal on the blue clay from the Big Dig. That's going to reduce the cost of closing and capping your landfill, but Milton's landfill cost is still $9.2 million. There's special legislation being given consideration for. The Speaker of the House was here in Milton not too long ago and said he would gladly support a one-time special expenditure payment of $275 million from surplus funds to help defray the cost of closing and capping the landfills in the 91 cities and towns in the Commonwealth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if we can put the education of the children of this town in a contingent and strings attached to all sorts of legislation that's going to come down the pipe in order that those schools get the $255,000, well, let's put a few strings on this deal and say, let's wait and see what the state is going to do for us. What we did that was wrong before was out of the 91 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we signed a consent decree. The other 90 didn't, which mandated we had to move quick. I don't know why we signed that consent decree. We should never have. But let's wait and see what the legislature will do for us. I'm tired of coming to town meeting and finding that everything's a crisis mode. We got to do it now. We got to go for the $9.2 million to build a library, or we're going to lose this money. Why is it a crisis, ladies and gentlemen? We have time to review this stuff. So I think what we should do is we should have a special administrator elected or appointed, however you want to do it, oversee the closing and capping of the landfill, be responsible for bidding on the fill that's coming in here. If he can go for $30 a ton or $70 a ton or $100 a ton, we have air rights up there. We have a commodity that we can sell. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that diamond in the rough could bring in, when you build an 18-hole golf course yourself, whether it be the municipal golf course of Milton or whether it be the municipal golf course of Milton done by a private, someone in the GPA, someone who's a professional that knows what they're doing, build a professional 18-hole golf course for the people of Milton. You'll bring in $1 million like the George Wright does and quite a few others, ladies and gentlemen. Your greens fees will bring you in about $400,000 a year, and that could take us for another 20 or 30 years. So I don't care about this lease for $1 a year for 50 years. I think we can take care of our libraries if we do it right and build our own and get a professional in here that'll oversee, an administrator that'll oversee. Put it in receivership if we have to get someone that'll do the right thing in the best interest of Milton, so we have money from now on. Not a private venturer, not some private industry who's going to make the money and possibly run. If they go bankrupt, you're stuck, and we'll need the federal government to clean out whatever mess they make there, like Reuben did. The next thing is, that special I'm sorry, that to do is come here. If you don't like that, then you should not run for public office the next time, because I will not be intimidated, I will not be put down.
Please finish your remarks now.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I will.
Finish your remarks.
I live near this. My biggest investment is my children and my wife. My second biggest investment is my home. And this, what you decide tonight, has a lot to do with what happens to me. Now, I don't know, are there any members of Precinct 8 on this board? Would you raise your hand?
No.
Precinct 8?
Finish your remarks, Mr. Livingston.
Thank you.
On
I
the
live in
article.
Precinct 8, and that's what envelopes the landfill. The special administrator would be responsible. I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Moderator, that in Section 1, where it says recreation purposes, after the last sentence in Part 1 of this article, I'd like to have provided final approval of town meeting and after a binding referendum of the townspeople has been secured. Telling you, my mouth is dry. I have
Mr.
no
Livingston,
water. So, yes, sir.
Provided final approval.
And I feel great.
All right. You have provided final approval of town meeting. Do you mean to say provided there is final approval by town meeting?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate your assistance.
There is final approval by town meeting. The proposed amendment is to add after the words recreational purposes, provided there is final approval by town meeting and after a binding referendum of the townspeople has been secured. Is there a second to that motion? Been moved and seconded, and we will hear debate now on the motion to amend.
Yes,
All
Mr.
right,
Moderator.
So this is to add additional language to the recommendation of the warrant committee.
Yes, Mr. Moderator.
All right. Do you wish to be heard on your own motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. Briefly now, because there's a lot of people to be heard. Okay?
I usually am. I will try to keep my remarks. The reason for this, as you all know, is so many people have got up and spoke, and they've had severe consternation about the process and feeling that it should come back and the people should have final say. And I think that this is the way that we can secure that it will come back. You know, the people are asking for this. The community is asking for this, and you have an obligation to them to come back. A request for proposal should go out, and as Mary said as she come up to the mic here, the best options should be given, but it should be in an open forum. We should be able to decide among all of the decisions and all of the plans and all of the proposals that are brought to the town of Milton, so that we can go and get, as you all say, the best bang for our buck.
Anyone else wish to be heard on the pending motion? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a real quick comment to make, unless I'm reading this incorrectly.
On the motion now, right?
Well, actually, it says in here that this article would allow the selectmen to pursue options. We're not setting anything in stone this evening, I'm assuming. We're just pursuing options, so I'm not quite understanding
Well,
why
the
there's such a
option, it
debate
gives them
about
the
this.
lease option, that's right.
Right. So nothing is set in stone.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else wish to be heard on the pending motion? The warrant committee's position on the motion, and then we'll go to a vote on the motion.
The Warrant Committee recommends the town vote no on the motion.
Do you want to be heard on the motion? Kathy? Kathy Dunphy, Chair of the Warrant Committee.
The Board of Selectmen unanimously recommends a no vote on the motion.
All right, we'll go to a vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion to amend the recommendation of the Warrant Committee by adding language that says, provided there is final approval by town meeting and after a binding referendum of the townspeople has been secured, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. All right, that amendment goes down. We're back on the main motion now. Mr. Oldfield, you're recognized. You got to wait your turn again.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, town meeting members. I'm asking at this time that you defeat the motion that's before this great body. The reason that I ask that of all of you is because you and I are citizens of this community. If you look at the maps, and there are 3 that I have, it outlines many parcels of property that make up the 177 acres, plus or minus, of the Milton disposal area. These have been purchased over the many, many years by you and people before you. The form of government that we have and have had for hundreds of years is that we have town meetings like we have tonight. That we come before a town meeting like I have the opportunity now to speak my mind. We debate, we talk, we discuss, and we vote. If you look at the intent of the article, and I don't want to get into a discussion regarding Quarry Hills. That is not the article. The article is asking you and asking me that we give up our right to discuss and debate and to vote, and that we take this and give it to a majority of at least 2 on a board of 3. Again, meaning that because this is a huge issue, we're turning this debate and discussion and vote over to 2 members of our community. I'm sorry, but this is not the way we should be governing. And the issue is, do we want to do that? Do we want to do that? I think it's entirely wrong to run a form of government that we run and take away your vote and mine. We have other elected people in this town. For example, I'm looking at the planning board. Should they not be involved in this issue? The town meeting, we have not heard how they feel. The Conservation Commission is involved. We have not heard their feelings. This is mainly before you to take away our discussion and our vote, and that is the issue. And I don't think that we should be doing that. We talk about public hearings. Have there been any public hearings on this issue?
Yes.
A few weeks ago at Cunningham Park, town meeting members were invited to come. A public hearing isn't for just town meeting members. It's for every citizen in a town who wants to come and voice their opinion. That was not a public hearing. There was a public hearing regarding the transfer station. A few years ago, the board indicated they would like us to give them $9.3 or $4 million. They stood before us, and the department from the federal government was here indicating to all of us we had no choice. What was said to us was that we have to close the dump in 1998. You recall this. We need that money for what? To close the dump, to cap the dump, to build a transfer station and other closing costs. We had no choice. We had to do that, and we did that. I never for once thought that from that point on, we never again would hear anything at all generally about anything except Quarry Hills. I'm not saying we should not have Quarry Hills. Again, that is not the issue. And I, for one, ask you not to vote and support the article, because all of us then would be transferring your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings. You represent other people in the town, as we all do. How do they feel about it? Is that what you want to do, to transfer that opportunity that you have to 2 members of a 3-member board? That's all it takes. It's too big a project. We have time for public hearings. We have plenty of time. There should be a few more. If the Quarry Hills is a main issue, there certainly should be a public hearing, or more than one, where citizens other than us can come and voice their opinion. So I don't think we should be fooled and lulled into the fact that Quarry Hills is a reason. That is not the issue again, and I beg you and ask you not to support this, because I would like, and you would like perhaps, to speak for yourselves and others at a later date. We had, for example, and it's been mentioned here before, one article came up a few nights ago. It got by all of us except Mr. Mullen. He picked up on one word, must. You recall that, and we changed it to may. That's what happens when you get public voice and all of us talking and debating. That's exactly what happens. Minute details. And that's important. So I ask you, for those reasons, not to support the article. And again, it has nothing to do with Quarry Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Oldfield. Okay. Yes, sir? No. This person first, and then John Michael Shields.
Chris Eubank, Precinct 4. My interpretation of this article is that we're asking 3 competent elected Milton officials to negotiate in good faith for our town. I'd like to suggest that in negotiating every day in the job that I do, that being able to have this leverage is something that is very important in any negotiation. I'd like to put our full support behind the selectmen, and I'd also like to make a motion to close debate and vote on this article. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to not entertain that. I'm going to hear from 2 other people that I promised to, and then we will move to a vote.
Thank you, Mr.
You are
Moderator.
recognized next, Mr. Walsh, and then Mr. Livingston.
John Michael Shields, town meeting member from Precinct 2. The numbers on this project are very confusing, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to make a differential between what would happen if we did not take the Quarry Hills project and we tried to, as people say, do it on our own. Well, if we tried to do it on our own, let's not forget that we do not own these trucks, and we are not a trucking concern, and I would not want town government to get into that business. There are probably going to be 4 to 5 major bidders for the Big Dig fill. And the bid prices, what they will be paid to truck the material away, will range anywhere from a low that I've heard of $4 up to probably around $15 or $16, and you can probably be assured that it will land somewhere in the middle. This fill has already been bid out a number of years ago by the government, and it was won. It was going to go to Minnesota and Michigan and all kinds of places. And the governor said that he would rather have it stay within the confines of the state to help with these things like landfill closures. If we were not to do Quarry Hills and we were to, one of the 4 major bidders would get the bid, and they would then come to the town. But what they would have to do in order to bring the fill to the town, what they would want to do, if they win the bid at, say, $10, they'd want to protect their profit because they are businessmen. What that means is that Milton would then be a preferred receiver of the fill because we're so close, and it would be less costly for them. But we would not get what Quarry Hills is proposing. Our end of it would probably be closer to $4 or $5 if the bid was $10. We don't know that at this moment. And this article doesn't say this is specifically going to be Quarry Hills. Now, the Quarry Hills proposal, one of the things that you lose in these kind of debates is the very fact that they are saying that at $120,000 an acre to close a landfill, we are mandated by the DEP to cover and cap 58 acres. The costs don't change. That cost has been constant for about 6 years, 7 years, at $8.3 million. We had other estimates in there for a transfer station at about another $1 million. So at $8.3 million, and then if we did it on our own and got a lower price than what Quarry Hills is paying us, and let's say it's $4, and let's say that multiplies out to $3 or $4 million, we would then have to go out to override on the bond. We would have to bond out the rest of that money, and we'd have to override it because we couldn't absorb the debt service on our present budget. If we took Quarry Hills, if they got the bid in July, and if they were going to go forward, they have the ability, because it's 27 holes, because some of it's in Quincy, most of it's in Quincy, they have other revenue streams, to do something that we can't do. The thing that they can do that we can't do is that they can go out and bond out as an entity unto themselves because they have other revenue streams than we do. They have a clubhouse. They have a driving range. They rent golf carts. They can show a bank and banking entities that they can make more money than we can because we don't have the land to build a 27-hole golf course. We don't have the land to build an 18-hole golf course. We don't have the land to build a good 9-hole golf course. It really, when you look at the 120 or so acres that we have up there, a lot of it is restrictive. Mr. Foster, quite correctly suggests another road into the landfill. We can't build one because there's no room to build one. We tried to, at this very site he mentioned, we tried to site at the transfer station there a number of years ago, and we were prevented from doing that over an entire summer's debate by the Mass Historical, the wing of the state government. And so we're very limited as to what we can do up there. If there was to be commercial development, a building that would go up there, you'd have to break the seal of the capping. And that would any developer, it would increase his costs so much that it would not be practical. Besides the fact, with one road going in and out, it would not be a practical development. The $8.3 million that Quarry Hills proposes to give us over the 50-year term of the lease works out to about $400,000 a year over 50 years. Mr. Neely has mentioned that pot has now been sweetened, that by year 20, we would then be receiving another $62,000. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the best commercial development you can get up there. And so I would suggest, there's been some doubts cast about our boards, and I would suggest to you that the Board of Selectmen has been working on this very hard. The Board of Selectmen has had many public hearings on this issue and on many issues on the landfill over the last 6 years. I can attest to that because I've been to all of them. This is a good deal for the town. I think we have to trust Kathy Dunphy, Rick Neely, Diane Agostino. They know what they're doing. The voters have placed their trust in them, and I would suggest a yes vote on this article. Thank you.
This is a very important issue, so I'm not about to close debate, but I'd ask each speaker to be succinct, because we've heard most of what can be said on this, but it's very important, but we should be thinking that we're getting close to voting. So we're going to go through these.
Jeff Wilkinson, Precinct 11.
You're recognized.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions stemming from recent debate, and shall I just state them all?
Okay. I'll get you answers.
I'd like some clarification on why the rush. As I understand it, the selectmen are asking for this authority because of the timing of the bid, the central artery fill. And that makes sense to me. It has been challenged in debate, but I wonder if we could hear some clarification on why the selectmen need to have authority to conduct the lease or to negotiate the lease. Why is that tied to the timing of the bid on the fill? That's question number one.
All right.
Question number two is concerns have been raised about possible insolvency of the contractor, Quarry Hills. What happens if Quarry Hills goes bankrupt?
All right.
It seems like a legitimate question.
I've got those questions. Is that it?
And the third question that has been raised in debate that I'd like clarification on, although Mr. Shields just addressed it substantially, is there's been an accusation that the selectmen have not adequately analyzed alternate possibilities, and that maybe there's some extra money in this for us. As I've heard the presentations, that doesn't sound right. It sounds like there's been careful analysis and that the selectmen are satisfied that this is the best financial deal, but I'd like clarification on that as well.
As to whether they've analyzed other alternatives?
Yeah, if we sell it on our own, could we really make more money?
Okay.
Are they...
All right, that's the Mary Fitzgerald question from before. Okay. Now, Mr. Neely, do you think you could answer those questions now? Just those questions. I'll give you another shot later for all opening questions. The question is, why are we in a hurry as it relates to one's understanding that somehow or other this is tied to the bids? Number two, what happens if the developer goes insolvent? And three, have you in fact considered other alternatives? Mr. Haskell is going to answer some of these questions.
Okay. I'm going to answer the why the rush question. The Central Artery Project, as you know, is really going to hit high gear in the near future. And right now there's about, I went to a meeting last week, there's about 500,000 yards of material that has to be moved off of Subaru Pier, which is the central processing point for the artery project in Boston, by November of this year. Then the next contract, which goes for 2 years, which is currently going to be bid in, I thought it was in June, I've been told it's going to be in July. The bids received then is for about 2.2 million yards of material. that's going to come out of the project. Following that, there's a 4-year contract that would start in 1999 that only has about 1 million yards of material over that 4-year period. So in other words, roughly 2.8 of the 4 million yards of material will be dedicated to a site, to a disposal site, and be bid in the next 3 to 4 months of time. That's what's generating a lot of the rush and forcing us to really move ahead with this quickly. Do you want me to mention the other issue? Yeah, in the agreement itself, there's protections and about what happens to the site when Quarry Hills goes bankrupt. I'm not sure exactly what those are, but they protect the town against it. One of the issues that we're trying to negotiate is to make sure that there's a performance bond. In other words, as this project starts up and is under construction, there is a control that will get the town, the cap and the things that we're looking for here, and asking from Quarry Hills if something should happen during that construction process. And that's one of the prime discussion points of the lease right now. And as far as analyzing alternatives, I've been involved in this project for almost 4 years, and I can't tell you how many alternatives and different things we looked at, both with the Landfill Study Committee, internally with the selectmen and other things, and at public hearings. There really hasn't been another alternative that's come forward that has anywhere near the financial benefits, along with without the added impact of traffic. The project, the estimates that the Central Artery is putting out is that there's 4,000 cubic yards of material that will be moved each day out of the artery project. That's 200 trucks a day. And the alternative traffic through the Quincy sites into Milton and not over Milton streets is a significant benefit that can't be without a dollar value. And even with that benefit, there's been no project that's come forth that's even been close on the the rate of return and the present value to the town of Milton.
Thank you. Mary Fitzgerald.
Mr. Moderator, you had suggested earlier that we might go to a vote before I at least could hear a response to my request to the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Neely's going to answer your question before I close debate.
Okay. A question for Mr. Haskell, if I might.
Yes.
When the $8 million figure was compiled a number of years ago, was there a figure in there that bought fill, or did we assume at that point in time that we were either getting it for nothing or getting paid for it? Because I guess I don't understand how it can still be $8 million if that factor has changed, and perhaps there's something I don't know. So I would ask him, was there a number in the $8 million which represented the buying of the fill needed to do the capping 8 years ago?
Can you answer that?
The $8 million is really a town, the town that goes into it alone figure. It does not assume the town would get any money for the fill, receive any revenue from bringing the fill in on their own. It does assume that the town would need to purchase somewhere in the order of 110 to 170,000 yards of fill to grade the site. So they wouldn't have to,
and what would the dollar value of that be that was plugged into the $8 million?
I think it's about $500,000 on that.
Okay, and
maybe a little bit more than that, actually.
all right. You're recognized.
Joseph O'Malley, Precinct 1. As we close out the debate, I'd like to ask a question that I asked earlier.
Okay.
Do we have a recommendation now from our newest select person on Article 37?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Selectman Augustino is recognized.
I was just going to come up to the mic and give an alternative motion to this town meeting, one other option. I asked Mr. Hannon of Quarry Hills, who we really haven't heard from today, and he is here with us tonight, if we could postpone consideration of this article until the last week in June, and if he would object to that. And he said that would be fine. So I asked town council, how would one go about doing that? And I just want to make this motion and give you the opportunity to vote it. I move to postpone further consideration of Article 37 until June 23rd. Therefore, the negotiations between the board and Quarry Hills will be further along, and there may be more available information to you. It's simply an option, so I make that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone further consideration of this article until June 23rd. that right, Ms. Agostino? Ms. Agostino? To June 23rd? It's a Monday evening. It's a priority motion.
Mr.
Want to be
Moderator?
heard on the pending motion, Mr. Winchester?
Yes. Point of order. I'm not sure if we're suggesting that this town meeting recess after the last article until June 23rd, but my recollection of the town bylaws is that no matter can be tabled.
It can't be, but it is a legitimate motion to postpone to a definite time. So this town meeting would not end, obviously. It would be the only way to interpret the bylaws, and we would have to have another meeting of this adjourned on June 23rd. Because you're absolutely right. You can't, under our bylaws, you can't take no action and close the meeting. So what we would then do, what would happen is we would postpone further consideration until a specific date, which is a legitimate motion and is recognized in the bylaws. Do you want to be heard on the pending motion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Chris Eubank, Precinct 4. What would be the cost of the town?
Clerk informs me that it is relatively, in the grand scheme of things, minimal. Mr. Buchanan.
Mr. Moderator, I believe this article pertains to the petition of the general court.
Yes, it does.
If we're going to postpone any request to the general court to the last week in June,
Yep.
if we have any knowledge of what goes on in Beacon Hill the last week in June with all the tumble and hurly-burly of trying to get a budget passed, I think this is frightfully naive. Legislature, I doubt, would give 10 seconds thought to this petition at this time. They would not have the time for it.
That may be.
Again, we have an article before us. Let's make a decision on it tonight.
Mr. Ferroli, on the motion to postpone.
Aldo Ferroli, Precinct 9. I think we're going too far here. And I would look at it this way, and it is the way we should look at it. We got a different Board of Selectmen. We got a new member. She's from Precinct 8. You're pretty well represented there. Why postpone this article?
Ned Rogerson, Precinct...
And furthermore, it's not locked in cement. I mean, whatever happens here, the selectmen can come back to us, and I trust that they would.
Okay.
Ned Rogerson, Precinct 3. The surest way I know of...
All right, quiet now. Hang on.
Surest way I know
Speak up into those microphones.
Okay, the surest thing I know of slowing something down is to study it to death. I have some feeling on this that we've been looking at this now for 6 years. There have been a heck of a lot of studying done, boards, meetings, the whole 9 yards. And we're actually getting down to the point now where we have to make a decision pretty soon because the dirt's got to move off the Subaru pier one way or another. I think if we postpone this thing, I think we're actually going to end up tying the hands of the selectmen somewhat as to the flexibility that they're going to have to negotiate the best deal. And at this point, I don't think another deal is going to walk through the door. I really don't. If we're going to have one, it would have shown up by now. Last comment is I think the elixir's a damn good idea because I'm being driven to drink tonight.
All right. Mr. Shields, on the motion to postpone. Only.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I don't think that we should pass this amendment. We've said at the beginning of this debate that the bids won't be open till July. To delay till June, to me, has no merit. Mrs. Agostino has said that she's been studying this for years. I believe she has. We signed the consent decree in 1992. We came before the town meeting to authorize the bonding of $9.3 million. This has been studied to death. We really have spent a lot of time on this. And to delay it when this is the time to do it is wrong. The time is now. Let's make the decision.
All right, I'm going to go to a vote on the motion to postpone. Okay. All those in favor of postponing consideration to another session of this town meeting on June 23rd, 1997.
I had some prepared remarks, and in sort of respect of your time, I'm going to try to cut out the points that have already been made as I go along. But I would appreciate your indulgence. Like many of the people in this room and at the front of this room, I work hard for the town. I think this is a very, very important issue for everybody in this room, and I think it deserves the respect of the comments being made from this podium. I have two issues that I think are related to this item. The first is taking control away from town meeting. Is the Quarry Hills deal, the second is the Quarry Hills deal the best deal for the town? On that second issue, I just feel information is significantly incomplete to make this decision. I also feel a competitive bid about what we could do with the golf course or that property was not done. And it's interesting to note that during the process of acquiring technology on behalf of the schools, in my role on the Technology Advisory Committee, I was regularly reminded that when we went to purchase anything over $2,500, we had to go through a competitive bid process. That was painful and time delaying and a bit annoying, but we did it because we understood that the law. $2,500 worth of technology. Why aren't we, with such a large item at stake, why didn't we go through a competitive bid process? I'd like to get back to the first issue, removing from town meeting. The future use and potential future income from the landfill is, in my opinion, one of the most important decisions our town will make, both in my past years here at town meeting, and frankly, since we're talking about 50 years, I can assure you all of my future years, and maybe most of all of your future years here at town meeting. I don't believe my neighbors and your neighbors would be happy if we decided that 3 members of the town were going to be allowed to make this decision and approval on their own. And in fact, when you think of that 3-member board and the point was made, really only 2 people have to do it, versus 279 town meeting members from every part of the town. So why are we not qualified? Why are you not qualified? Why am I not qualified to vote on a final recommendation? I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. If it is timing, then why has the Board of Selectmen waited until the 11th hour to bring this deal in front of us? I mean, we have heard about this for a long time. So why are we pressured tonight? We've got to rush for this dirt in June. Why is it the 11th hour? I'd like to just speak now to the second point. I've been able to do a little research in preparation for this town meeting on the second point. And the second point is this the best deal for the town? I haven't done enough research on this, but I have found out some interesting points that I think all of you should know. Bill Foley, a resident of this town, a member of the Wollaston Golf Club, I had an opportunity to speak with him about this issue. Mr. Foley, who lives up in Indian Cliffs, and Harry McCracken are both past presidents of the Mass Golf Association. They worked in that capacity on a subcommittee of the Mass Golf Association to assist communities and groups that were planning and pricing and planning to build golf courses. Today, Mr. McCracken works with Mr. Bill Flynn, who owns 3 golf courses and operates several others. The figures Mr. Kraken gave to me were, on average, and this is what they use for planning models in assisting many golf courses in this state. And by the way, I'm talking about golf course because I happen to think that is a good option for the land. I don't necessarily believe that we've explored enough to determine that the Quarry Hills deal is the best option. I know it has attractive points. But Mr. McCracken pointed out to me that it's quite simple. When planning a golf course, you think about $150,000 to $200,000 per acre. For an 18-hole golf course, you ought to think about putting in golf paths. And I did hear and understand Mr. Neely when he said, gee, we only think we can build 9 holes on that site. And that may be right, but I'd rather have heard, and there are professional groups around here, I'd rather have heard them, if they'd gone through a bidding process, determine that we can only build 9 holes up there. I just would like that, had that been confirmed independently. But for an 18-hole golf course, you ought to think about building golf cart paths. That's $225,000. You ought to think about building a maintenance shed. This is all, of course, if you were doing it independently. And that's $400,000 to $600,000. When you take all those figures, it's about $3.6 million if you take the high side, $200,000 for the 18 holes. You take the golf cart paths, you take the maintenance sheds. Then you think about building in a modest clubhouse at another $500,000. You're in the neighborhood of $5 million cost, $5 million to build a golf course. Well, if $35 to $40 is asked for the greens fee, you're in the neighborhood of bringing in $300,000 plus for income on an annual basis, and that's if you're carrying the note of that $5 million to build it. Now, we heard talk earlier, and I won't belabor it. Mrs. Fitzgerald, I think, was asked the significantly pertinent questions about how much income will be generated from tipping fees, bringing that fill in and dumping it. And I have not heard a good answer. And I have not heard a good answer. In fact, I don't remember seeing a well-defined, and I came to the public hearings, not this one just before the night before the election, which I didn't receive enough notice to, but I did go, and I don't even know, sitting in front of you now, exactly what the breakdown was. I know we put $1.3 million, although that number was changed between $1 million and $1.3 tonight. I heard $1.3 million for the transfer station. Understand that's gone. But I don't recall the specific breakup of the $8 million. And frankly, it's important, because how much will we make from the tipping fees? I've heard estimates of $9 million. Well, if we take in if somebody takes in $9 million, and we don't have a town, we don't have to have our own people manage this, we could put out for bid. If somebody takes $9 million in for the trucking expense of bringing that dirt and dumping in our property, that's a lot of money to work with to build a golf course that's going to produce, even if you carry the note, $300,000. So, lastly, just a couple other examples. I talked with a neighbor of mine who contacted through Mr. Tim Cale's office, who's a Norfolk County treasurer, what's happening at President's. President's is producing a net income of $300,000 on an annual basis. And so I had several questions, but I'm mindful of your time. The point is this, that there is a lot of questions here, and we're not challenging this board's, their skill or their quality. We're saying we want the opportunity to vote on it. And frankly, it has been all sounding Quarry Hills, and I just don't understand why it wasn't put out. Neither do the gentleman that I spoke to.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank
Mr. Gordon, you're recognized.
I urge a no vote on the motion. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Mr. Gordon's recognized next. There are other people in order.
Marvin Gordon, Precinct 8.
You have to go to a microphone and make a motion.
I'm going to take just a few seconds of your time. I'm chairman of the Landfill Study Committee. I just wanted to say that the Landfill Study Committee has had no meetings in 1997, and the reason that we have had no meetings is because we've been looking for alternative backup proposals for this to the Quarry Hills, and we haven't found any. We had almost 30 meetings in the first 3 or 4 years when we were dealing with the Trash for Cash program, and when we were evaluating the Quarry Hills proposal. And this town meeting should know that you've heard a lot about solicitation of alternative proposals and that there hasn't been any. But that is not the case. The Landfill Study Committee put out a request for proposals about 3 years ago, was that right? A little over 2 years ago. And for all the options, anyone, whether it was a supermarket, a golf course, anyone could have replied to it. And then we had the criteria listed and as to what the town would be interested in. One is the financial return on minimizing the cost of capping and closing, financial return going forward, the environmental impact, traffic, neighborhood impacts, and so forth. Guess how many replies we had? 0. No one replied to this request for proposals. The only expression of interest was from Quarry Hills. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow town meeting members, I'm telling you that we have a proposal in hand, which may not go through. It's dependent on winning this state bid, but we have a proposal in hand that can minimize or completely eliminate the cost. The alternatives are conjectural at best. You're going to bet the $8 million farm and throw it out if you don't vote positively on this article tonight. The time is now. The timing isn't of our nature, our making. The timing has been dictated by the state. The dirt is piling up. The whole process of getting this thing in motion is such that a delay of even a couple of months will mean that I believe, if Quarry Hills is successful, that they will have no option but to go ahead with an 18-hole golf course on Quincy's side and leave us out in the cold. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Neal, you're recognized. I particularly want to get an answer to town meeting. I'm about to close debate, but there's a pending question from town meeting member Fitzgerald, and as I recall, it's basically whether or not, prior to actually entering into any such lease, whether the selectmen will hold a public forum and/or hearing, not only to discuss what the terms are, but also what other alternative considerations of the use of the property or opportunities have come your way. Now, is the Board of Selectmen willing to do that or not?
Mr. Moderator, the Board of Selectmen is quite willing to commit publicly to holding a public hearing to which all of you would be invited and to which you would be sent a packet which would have the options and the details in the files that contain the other options and alternatives that are considered. We'll also include for them a copy of the RFP that was issued several years ago that was in fact issued and for which Mr. Gordon referred to the no responses. We've also had golf course architects, Cornish and Silva, who many of you are familiar with, who play golf. They've walked the site and evaluated the property and determined that it was not feasible on its own. So, for 9 holes at the time, independent. So the point is, there's been a lot of work done. Many of us have many things to do. We've not all been able to keep all the details. We will hold a public hearing to get you up to speed to make sure that all of the options are outlined. It will be mailed to your house prior to the meeting and prior to any signing of the lease. So we will not make any written commitments. We will not make any signatures. We will not make any verbal commitments until everything has been presented to you in a public hearing for an opportunity. And I would say, again, the model we're following here is modeling this after legislation that was approved for the city of Quincy after the Quincy City Council voted unanimously to delegate this lease to the mayor of Quincy. That's the model and the process we've been following. We simply have been using their experience in this process and trying to model the whole program to end up with a capped landfill for the benefit of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to recognize this gentleman, then Mr. Livingston, and then the warrant committee is going to close debate. That's it. Don't stand up. Yes, sir.
Joseph O'Malley, Precinct 1. I'd like to, before we close out the debate, if we could get the recommendation on Article 37 of our newest select person. Thank you very much.
No, you're not recognized yet. Hang on. We'll get to that. Mr. Livingston, briefly, you've already spoken once at length. So make it brief, please.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, in Article 37, after number 2, this act shall take effect upon its passage, I would like to amend the article to read, this act shall take effect upon its passage and will rescind
minus debt 3
1992 town meeting.
Do you have that in writing?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you're amending the to add language.
I'm amending the article.
After the act shall take effect upon its passage. And the town will...
This act shall
You
take
want- you
effect
want-
upon its passage and will rescind Article 17 of the 1992 town meeting.
This is not in order. You're not going to get
Okay.
the legislature to rescind Article 17 of the 1990 town meeting. You're going to get this town meeting to rescind it if you want, but I'm going to rule it out of order.
Okay, then I'll move it up to after Section 1. After purposes,
You can amend the recommendation of the amended recommendation of the Warrant Committee by adding language, and Article 17 of the 1992 town meeting shall be rescinded, if you like.
that would be that's exactly it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your
And Article
assistance.
17 shall be rescinded. Is there a second? It fails for want of a second. Anything else you want to say?
There is a
There is a
second.
second from Mr. Walsh. All right, the motion is duly made and seconded. Is there further discussion on the motion? Mr. Livingston?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I think that
Let's
where
start
we...
by telling everybody what Article 17 is, because there'll be somebody
I was
who
going
doesn't
to.
know.
I was going to.
Okay.
Article 17 of the 1992 town meeting was, as Mr. Gordon had stated, we had come here, we had a consent decree that was signed, and we were mandated to do things, expeditiously. And that was, we had to show that we had a bond issue to cover the cost of closing and capping the landfill. So we voted to authorize the town meeting to bond this to the tune of $9.3 million. If this deal is so good, and we're going to go to lease and allow this, I think we could reduce our bond obligation by taking that $9.3 million out of our indebtedness or obligations that we have. I think Moody's would look at it, great, we're going to be getting money in from Quarry Hill, that's going to take care of the closing and capping, and we're not going to be having this one resting over our head. The other thing that I found interesting in the debate tonight was the surreptitious way that it was webbed and weaved, that I'm talking to the article. I'm talking to the motion, that this was a question of trust or character. I have all the faith in the Board of Selectmen, I have all the faith in the Warrant Committee, I have all the faith in the town meeting members. But I think that I also have an obligation here carrying the public trust to the people out there in the town of Milton. And I think I'm doing the right thing.
All right. Warrant Committee on the motion. Mr. Neely, briefly, on the motion.
Mr. Moderator, I have to say that conceptually, I'm in agreement with Mr. Livingston, conceptually. So we're at first base, and he is a little bit ahead of us. Frankly, he's thinking in the right direction. We do, at some point in time, want to eliminate that bond authorization. It's something we would look forward to doing. It is, at this point, just premature. So he's got the right idea, but we cannot do it at this point in time because the Quarry Hills option, may not make it. We need to have it in there and available in case the Quarry Hills option does not proceed. It also, I should tell you, is included in the consent order. It's identified in the consent order that we signed with the DEP whenever it was 4 years ago. So that conceptually I'm in agreement with Mr. Livingston on financial analysis and financial planning, but we just at this point would recommend a no vote because of the two requirements. And also, another technical matter, town council has handed me a piece of paper that mentions Article 2 on that November 9th meeting. Was it Article 17 or Article 2? But
We'll take that as a technical amendment if it's Article 2 of the 1992 town meeting.
But in any case...
Of the Warrant Committee on the pending motion.
Am I recognized?
Yeah,
Mr.
Livingston, you got to wait for me to recognize you.
I was going to save him the time
No.
because I was going to withdraw the article if
You're going to
after what
withdraw
Rick
the
said.
motion? You're withdrawing the motion?
Yeah.
Motion withdrawn. Okay.
Based on what Mr. Neely said, and I respectfully, and I work with my colleagues, withdraw the article.
Motion's withdrawn. Okay, and now we're going to hear finally the last person on the main motion is the position of the Warrant Committee. And then we're going to vote. And then we're going to take a short break. We hope, Mr. McDonald, you will not go on for 20 minutes.
Okay. The Warrant Committee sees a yes vote on this article as keeping Quarry Hills on the table as an option. We see a no vote on this article as taking Quarry Hills off the table killing it is a possibility altogether. We believe the best interests of the town are served by giving the selectmen the strongest possible negotiating position. We believe that's served by giving them the most options to work with. Therefore, we recommend a yes vote on the article.
The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote yes, provided, however, that any such lease agreement contain provisions for the construction of at least 2 fields or courts at no cost to the town. All those in favor of the amended recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The ayes have it. It passes. And we will take a short 10 minutes only. Be back in your seat in 10 minutes, and we'll get some other business done. Massachusetts general laws with respect to a water enterprise fund effective fiscal year 1998. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote no. Did you wish to speak, Mr. McDonald? Alan, did you want to speak on this? No. Does anybody wish to speak to the article? No. If you're voting aye, you're voting for the article. If you're voting no, you're voting for a no vote. All those in favor of the article say aye. Those opposed say no. No. The article is defeated. Article 39, to see whether or not the town of Milton will accept the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53F and 1/2 Massachusetts general laws with respect to a water enterprise fund effective fiscal year 1999. Recommendation of the Warrant Committee is the town vote no. You wish to be recognized, Selectman Agostino. You're recognized.
These articles have been brought before you in the past, and I think as time goes on, you might understand them a little bit more, so I will try to be brief. We've talked over the last few nights at town meeting about planning for the future, about financial accountability, about how we're going to pay for all that we want, whether it's the schools, the libraries, the DPW. These articles do just that with our water money, our sewer money, and our solid waste money. I'm going to address, Mr. Moderator, is that okay if I address all three?
Sure.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Go for it. It's nice of you to let me talk. The enterprise...
No ad hominem attacks, though.
Okay.
Especially on your moderator.
The Enterprise Fund Study Committee was formulated, and the committee did come up with a majority opinion and a minority opinion, of which it's been handed out this evening. Some of them are green, some of them are white. They were all supposed to be green to emphasize money. The final person on the Enterprise Fund Study Committee, however, I'd like to read to you what his final decision was. His name was Tom Spofford. He is of Public Finance Applications. He worked for years at the State House creating some of the laws that we depend on today. And on January 17th of 1996, he stated, "I am withdrawing from the Enterprise Fund Study Committee. I am doing so to disassociate myself from the conclusion of the committee majority." I think that was a pretty emphatic statement. about his frustration with the studies committee's process. I'm not one, though, to just shrink away, because I do strongly believe that enterprise funds, whether we vote it tonight or whether the federal government mandates it of us, will come to Milton and will be beneficial. The primary document you have in your warrant is just 2 sentences. So this year, I asked for the warrant committee in the form of a letter I asked the warrant committee to print the law for you. And that's what you've received tonight. It's very simple terms. It's easily understandable. And I'll get to that in a minute. But before I do, I want to make you aware of 2 individuals, 2 CPAs, who have been our auditors in the past. Jim Russell of Arthur Anderson and Jim Powers of Powers and Sullivan, who I spoke to 2 days ago. Both of these gentlemen in the past and 2 days ago stated they 100% endorse enterprise funds. In fact, Mr. Powers went on to say to me, as a taxpayer, I want users to pay for what they're using. See, when it comes to water, sewer, and solid waste, the government only allows the town to charge you for the usage. We can charge you no more than the usage. That's the law. And so therefore, as a taxpayer and as a town meeting member, I want users to pay for what they're using and no more. Lisa Dickerson, our financial advisor from Baybank, attended one of our meetings. Lisa Dickerson's quote was, "The credit agencies like it better the clearer the picture for the town's money use." I know everyone doesn't enjoy reading financial statements, but in a financial statement, the columns shown to you are general fund, special revenue funds, and there's also a column that can be included called enterprise funds. For water, sewer, and solid waste monies right now in the town of Milton, all of these are included under the general fund. The picture is not very clear. If you go back into 1992, Arthur Anderson even noted in our financial statement on the page 1, the town has not established separate enterprise self-supporting funds to account for the activities of its water and sewer departments. That means, ladies and gentlemen, that when you read your warrant, on the front of the warrant, the presentation by the warrant committee, and it states enterprise funds, that's not that we've accepted the enterprise fund law. That's not that on your financial statement, you'll see each of those departments and your money broken down into the enterprise fund. That's a fact. I mean, it's in black and white. There's no argument to that. The law that I've put before you, the enterprise fund legislation, and on the back page, you see the points that are most important. Clear and consistent accountability. You'll notice that in this warrant before you, back on table 8C, table 8A, 8B, and 8C on page 84, 85, and 86, were put in there as an answer to, okay, we need better accountability and we want to show the numbers better, but we don't want to go all the way and do enterprise funds. But you'll notice on the bottom of page 86, actually it was on the bottom of page 49, I'm sorry. It relates to table 8C though. At the suggestion of the proponents of this article, the one I'm addressing, one of the 3, Table 8C in the back of the warrant committee now reports the accumulated revenue in the cash for trash account and estimates the interest generated by the account. This interest goes by law into the general fund where it contributes to paying for engineering fees related to landfill closure. So ladies and gentlemen, you have right in front of you my argument for enterprise funds. The warrant committee has stipulated in there that table 8A, B, and C are not going to be clear and consistent as they've shown between last year and this year. The other major item to look at on the first paragraph under enterprise funds is that any interest earned therein shall be credited to and become part of such separate account. The way it's set up now, the interest on the water, sewer, and solid waste can stay in the general fund and be used for other purposes. The third paragraph from the bottom of the law reads that the surplus shall be kept there. Now, if we're paying our water and sewer bills and solid waste in the future, we all already know that solid waste is really going to go up. If we're paying for those services, then any additional interest earned on the funds or any additional surpluses would certainly come into hand when we needed capital improvements. And as I stated, enterprise funds may very well soon be mandated, and that's why I've brought it before you. It's not as complex as some have led you to believe, and it's totally endorsed by accountants that we use to audit our books. So in closing, I'll only say that they will come before you again. Whether you approve them this evening or you don't approve them isn't going to do too much to us, because the proposal I have here is for 1999. We can't implement it for 1998. If Town Hall was willing to do that, we might have been able to do it. The towns I've talked to, new accountants were hired the same month that these articles were accepted in some of the towns. Can you imagine being a new accountant? You walk in and you've got to put your town's water, sewer, and solid waste on an enterprise fund program. It sounds overwhelming, but the accountants I've spoken to did it with complete ease. There is one last argument that constantly comes up. You'll have to do fixed asset accounting. People hate accounting jargon, but what that really means is that you'd be required to take an inventory, not of all the pipes in the ground, because most of them don't have any value anymore. And the towns that use enterprise funds, the Department of Revenue does not mandate fixed asset accounting. But the bottom line here is, wouldn't it be great if we did know the inventory for our water and sewer, if we had the plan and knew how many pipes needed to be replaced over how many years? It's all about planning. So what I ask of you tonight is, I'm not going to address any more of these articles. Have your vote, because that's what town meeting's for. But this year I will stand, and if you stand with me, I'd like to get a count on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator,
You're recognized.
Pat Schneider, Precinct 4. I would like to address my questions to Selectman Agostino. I want to know why these people that she's quoting are not here. It's hearsay. I'd like to hear from them, the people that she has quoted. I'd also like to know where the report is in the annual report,
Which report?
the enterprise.
Study committee report?
Right.
I don't know.
Also, this paper I was handed is a minority report, is this? Because it says Diane DiDulio Agostino Enterprise Fund Study Committee. Is she an entire committee? What is this? By what authority do we have this information? And who is it from? Just one member of the committee?
All right,
Thank you.
Ms.
I
Agostino,
have
do you want
three
to answer?
questions there. There are three questions.
Yeah, if you want to.
I'd be happy to answer the three questions. Somewhere on that paper I thought it stated it, and I spoke when I first addressed you this evening. I said the committee had a majority report, I was a minority report, and Mr. Spofford resigned not to be associated with the committee. And furthermore, with regards to Mr. Russell, it was on TV, it's documented in the archives at the cable studio, that he 100% endorses enterprise funds. As far as Mr. Powers, this evening, we heard all about Quarry Hills, but we didn't have one person standing here saying he was Quarry Hills. So, Mr. Moderator.
All right. One at a time. Let her answer. We'll recognize you again if you like. Go ahead. Finish your answer, Selectman Agostino.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And as I've stated, Mr. Powers actually did volunteer to come here this evening. Unfortunately, I had a difficult afternoon. We've talked about liabilities. My car was bombarded by rocks off a 6-story building and destroyed. So I just thought that Mr. Powers didn't need to be here, because Mr. Powers did address the committee, and I do have the newspaper that states, Mr. Powers in writing stated, enterprise funds are good, and he gave 6 reasons. This is all documented. Like I said, it doesn't have to go through tonight. The residents, though, for each one of you sitting out there, how many of you have heard complaints about your water and sewer bills? How many of you know that in the next few years when the landfill closes, we're going to hear complaints about the cost of trash disposal? How many of you want better funding for the schools or the libraries or the DPW? It's that simple. Thank you.
Would anyone else wish to speak to the article? Yes, sir. You're recognized.
I'm George Carey from Precinct 9 and former chairman of the Enterprise Fund Study Committee. I stood before you at the last annual town meeting and reported to you on the conclusions and the vote from the Enterprise Fund Study Committee. The members were Diane Agostino, Paul Gerard, Steve Pacocha, Ed Spellman, myself, and Tom Spofford. We voted 4-2 not to adopt enterprise funds. Diane and Tom Spofford clearly were proponents and presented the citizens article to the warrant. First of all, enterprise funds are a good thing. It's a good vehicle to account for funds and revenues when you have a truly enterprise situation, and the committee was in favor of enterprise funds at the outset when we started our meetings. But I did report to you at last town meeting, as we studied how Milton accounts for its water and sewer operations, Milton is operating enterprise-like accounting. No, they are not in separate funds. They are accounts within the general fund. And we found that they were funding the water and sewer operations with user rates and fees, keeping the interest within the accounts, keeping the surpluses within the accounts, and we found they were doing nothing essentially wrong in the accounting process. Milton was one of the first towns that started enterprise fund-like accounting. In 1902, the water accounting was made like enterprise fund-like accounting. In 1982, the sewer funds were brought into enterprise fund-like accounting. The committee felt that since we were doing nothing wrong and we would lose local control, why adopt the state statute? We could see no compelling reason to do that. Enterprise fund accounting does require, under the state statute, does require fixed asset accounting. We would have to record all our assets and somehow do something with the depreciation. The methodology of how you do fixed asset accounting is not clear in the enterprise fund handbook. It has a lot about the P&L and the user fees and the costs, but it has very little on how you handle the fixed assets. It would definitely require additional work, and we were not sure about the benefits. And staffing and funds are tight in the town, and we were reluctant to recommend more procedures and administration in the town, not knowing what it would give us. Either under enterprise fund accounting under the state statute or under our local statute, we can put money aside by having an article describing what sewer or water improvements we want to make, and that can be funded by the user fee. It does not, you can fund expenses and future capital improvements with the user fee under both mechanisms. All the public accountants that we interviewed and our financial advisor, of course, would advise us to be under the state statute. It is the state mandated way to go. It is not quite as clean under our local statute, but it is doable, and we are, our reports and our accounting are accepted by the Department of Revenue. And our methodologies have been approved by the Department of Revenue. With regard to the solid waste operation, we on the committee felt that inasmuch as the town did not feel it was right to fund the solid waste operations solely by user fees and still keep it on the tax levy, it would be misleading and inappropriate to designate the solid waste operation as an enterprise fund. It is not yet an enterprise fund as far as the town is concerned. The proponents felt that there would be better financial accounting and information for the citizens using enterprise fund accounting. Therefore, we put the schedules that you see in 8A, B, and C in the warrant, and on pages 264, 65, and 66 in the annual report, you see the budget to actual schedules that are very much like the enterprise fund tables in the enterprise fund handbook. This type of reporting has been used by the selectmen to manage in the water and sewer operations, to set rates and report to the DOR and other financial consultants. It's now more available to you in the public documents of the town. In summary, because creating enterprise funds under this Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half would create no real new information to improve financial planning and decision-making over what is available to you now, and Milton would retain more flexibility under the local statute than under the state statute, the Enterprise Fund Committee voted 4 against and 2 for. As you know, the committee has been disbanded, and I cannot speak for it today, but I urge a no vote on these six articles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Anybody else wish to speak to the... Mr. Livingston, you're recognized.
Could you just tell me, when was this printed, the warrant for 1997, around?
You have a question? You
Yes,
address
I
it
do.
to the moderator, and I'll get an answer.
Mr. Moderator.
What is your question?
Yeah, I'd like to know when this went to print.
When
the warrant.
When the article went to print.
Yeah, when the warrant went to print.
Okay. Is that, are you also, do you wish to speak after you get the answer?
Yes, so I can speak to the
All right.
article.
When did the warrant go to print, Mr. McDonald?
First week in April.
Thank you. You're recognized, Mr. Livingston.
Thank you, sir. The reason I ask when it went to print is because up till the first week in April, are we saying in the landfill escrow account there was only $109,000?
You have to address...
Well, but my question is this. Under an enterprise account, any money that you take in under water, sewer, and solid waste would have to stay within that particular area that it was taken in. Now, I know that we have $703,584.91 in the town of Milton for waste management of the out-of-town trash. But I looked through the warrant and I tried to find where that was. And I just wanted to find out when it went to print, so if it was before April, we took in $86,000 in December, $33,000 in December, $27,000 in February, $25,000 in February, $27,000 in March, $28,000 in April, $32,000 in May, $34,000 in July, $32,000 in August, $46,000 in October, $45,000 in October, $52,000 in November, and $39,000 in January. And the question is, thanks for bringing that to my attention, I almost forgot it. And the question is this, that adds up to more than $109,000. Why it wasn't here? Because if you have a solid waste, a water and sewer enterprise account, there is no way that you can circumvent 2.5 by charging higher fees. MWRA has sent the bill to Milton for 10%. Milton has voted it. They sent it at 11%. Milton has voted more. Each time we have sent a bill from MWRA, the selectmen have voted it higher to cover the cost of doing business. We ended up with a $1.2 million surplus in the water and sewer enterprise accounts August of 2 years ago. Now, the reason I bring this to your attention is because on your tax levy, they can't increase your taxes more than 2.5%. On your water and sewer, they can. Channel 5 did an editorial on it because of that. Everyone was blaming MWRA for what was happening in the towns. And Marjorie Aaron Barron came out and said, look in your own backyard. Great, we don't but look in your own backyard. And they found Arlington bought an ambulance. Another town bought a fire truck. Another town bought something else. And there are others that take the surplus and transfer it around throughout the areas. Now, when we get to enterprise accounts, we note in here water enterprise, sewer enterprise. They're, you know, as Mr. Carey said, they're like an enterprise. They're set up like an enterprise. The only analogy I can use, and I hope it's, you know, if it's not PC, I apologize, but It's like being pregnant. You either are or you're not. It's either an enterprise account or it's not.
Anyone else wish to speak to the article? Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
Ginny King, Precinct 3. I'm a new town meeting member
All right,
this
try
year.
to speak into the mic because we can't hear you.
I'm a new town meeting member this year, so I haven't had the opportunity to hear debates from prior years on this. However, it seems to me that it's a winning situation for us to adopt enterprise funds. It seems that the arguments against it, I just don't understand why they're so terrible. First of all, we keep saying that we have to deal with our assets. We'd have to make an inventory. What's wrong with that? We would know what we have. We're talking about control. We would have more control with this. We would see what we have. We'd see what interest is coming in, what funds are coming in, and where to spend those funds. Somebody said that accountants are going to have a problem with the how to deal with the fixed assets. Accountants know how to do this. This is what they do for a living. This is something that is just a very general thing that they know. We keep talking about enterprise-like, that we're already like an enterprise fund. Well, why don't we just make the step and be an enterprise fund and have the accountability for our funds? The other thing is, people were saying, let's not give the state control over our accounting. The last line of the law reads that a city or town which has accepted the provisions of this section with respect to a designated enterprise may in the same manner, I put in same myself, I'm sorry, may in the manner revoke its acceptance. So if this is something that does not please us after using us, after seeing if we get the benefits of it that I seem to think that we should be getting, then we can get rid of it. But why not give it a try? We're giving it a try, like it, but not to get all of the benefits of it. Let's get the benefits.
Bob Ahern, Precinct 8. I've got two questions. One is the handout, the Enterprise Fund legislation handout, cites Chapter 40, Section 39K. The articles seem to be dealing with Chapter 44, Section 53, F and a half. Is there a reason for that?
Are those all your questions?
No, I have one more.
All right, give me both, and then we'll get them both answered.
The second one is, in the comment to Article 39, there's a sentence in there. It says, indeed, the state statute has the disadvantage of limiting local control and flexibility. I'd kind of like an explanation on that.
All right. I think the first question, Diane Agostino, can you answer the first question?
Thank you. With regards to that, the Chapter 40, Section 39K is the exact same verbiage. It actually went under two different legislations, shall we say. You know, no one gets everything perfect. When I photocopied it, I had a handbook. The Department of Revenue actually gives you a handbook on how to bring enterprise funds to your town because the Department of Revenue thought it was such a wonderful product in order to separate your water, sewer, solid waste funding out of the general fund. So I received two handbooks. One handbook read Chapter 40, Section 39K. The other handbook mentioned the other chapter that you discussed. What was the second question?
It's to the comment that says that the Enterprise Fund Study Committee concluded that no advantage is to be gained by accepting state law with respect to enterprise funds, and that indeed the state statute has the disadvantage of limiting local control and flexibility. And the question was to elaborate on how it limited local control and flexibility.
Well, since I proposed the article and I totally disagree with the comment, I go back to my preliminary discussion. Interest on your water, sewer, solid waste money will accrue in the fund. Surpluses, remember a few years back we had a surplus for water, sewer. That surplus would not go to the general fund to be expended for any other item. It would stay in that fund. So therefore, if we're paying for those items, all of our dollars would stay there for that purpose. And I'd like to ask the moderator, there is a CPA and a certified fraud examiner on the warrant committee. I'd like her analysis also on that comment. Thank you. Patty Smith.
We have the second question to be answered. Mr. McDonald, do you want to comment on the second question, which was, Mr. Carey, is what we meant by limiting local control and flexibility?
Let me see. Under the state statute, you would be required to do fixed asset accounting. And if you didn't do it, in some 35 to 40 municipalities that are doing formal state statute enterprise fund accounting, all but Boston and I think Cambridge, are not doing fixed asset accounting. It is a significant amount of additional accounting work that you need to do, and you need to record the history too. You need to go out and inventory, all the assets that are in the ground and make estimates of what's there. And yes, that's information, but we're not quite sure what the value of all that is. That would be something you would be required to do under the statute. If you don't do it, you will have an audit. You will have a you will not get a full, clean audit on by your CPAs to your financial statements. That will not affect our bond rating, but it still is. It's another opinion that says your statement does not meet the state law. On the other hand, as we go forward and the state puts more requirements into this statute, we would have to comply with those. And the majority of the committee felt that if our local statutes are allowing us to do the accounting, to keep the accounts, to show the people how we're keeping the water expenses and the water revenues and the interest and the surpluses, we can do that adequately. Why be under the control of the state, under which we would have very little impact if they decided to change something?
Okay, does anybody else wish to speak to the article? All right. I know, but she's not a town meeting member, so she's not going to speak. And I haven't recognized you yet either. Do you want to be recognized? We have a procedure, Diane, okay?
I've
You're
always gone by
recognized.
your procedure, Mr. Ward, and
All right, you are recognized.
Thank
you
you.
may speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, I requested that a member of the Warrant Committee who is a CPA and a certified fraud examiner be allowed to speak. I've respectfully requested that of the town moderator. Ms. Smith informed me that the chairman of the Warrant Committee does not wish her to speak, however, has a town meeting member, and furthermore has a member of the Board of Selectmen. I'd like to know why this mic will not be made available to her. Thank you.
Because she's not a town meeting member. Okay?
Are you going to recognize me?
No, sit down. You're not recognized. This lady has the mic. You may finish your comments, Diane.
Mr. Moderator, I believe it's within your jurisdiction to recognize anyone here who requests to be recognized.
Yeah, and the procedure is you ask in advance. Okay? And that's announced at the beginning. Okay, you may finish.
Last year during the Enterprise Fund discussion, an Enterprise Fund member who is not a town meeting member did have the last voice on this article, and I won't mention his name, Mr. Moderator, but the fact of the matter is that if someone comes into this room, especially someone who spent so many hours on the Warrant Committee, I really cannot accept that she's not allowed to speak. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else who is a town meeting member wish to speak to this article? Yes, you're recognized.
Manit Voigt, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 2. When you have a committee that you entrust to make a decision on very complex issues, the majority wins. I find it very counterproductive for every minority member of every committee to stand up and discuss why they resigned, why they didn't agree with the majority. This is a democracy. You move on. You win some, you lose some, and if you try long enough, you'll win. But I really don't think this is productive at all. I'd like to move on.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the article? Who is a town meeting member or who is not a town meeting member has gotten permission in advance, as I announce at the beginning of every meeting. Okay, no, we'll go to a vote then. On Article 39, if you're voting aye, you're voting for the article. If you're voting no, you're voting with the recommendation of the Warrant Committee that the town vote no. All in favor of the article, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. Article is defeated. Article 40 is to see whether or not the town of Milton will accept the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53F1/2, Massachusetts General Laws with respect to a sewer enterprise fund effective fiscal year 1998. It's recommended by the Warrant Committee that the town vote no. Does anyone wish to address the article? If you're in favor of the article, you vote aye. If you're voting with the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, you're voting no. All those in favor of the article say aye. Those voting with the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, the town vote no, say no. Article is defeated. Article 41 is to see whether or not the town of Milton will accept the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53F1/2, Massachusetts General Laws with respect to a sewer enterprise fund effective fiscal year 1999. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is the town vote no. Does anyone wish to address the article? If you're voting aye, you're voting for the article. You're voting no, you're voting with the recommendation of the Warrant Committee that the town vote no. All those in favor of the article say aye. Those opposed say no. The article is defeated. Article 42, to see whether or not the town of Milton will accept the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53F1/2, Massachusetts General Laws with respect to a solid waste enterprise fund effective fiscal year 1998. Recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote no. Again, you're voting for the article, you're voting aye. You're voting no, you're voting with the recommendation of the Warrant Committee. Anybody wish to address the article? All those in favor of the article say aye. Those opposed to the article say no. Article is defeated. Article 43, to see whether or not the town of Milton will accept the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53F1/2, Massachusetts General Laws with respect to a solid waste enterprise fund effective fiscal year 1999. It's recommended by the Warrant Committee that the town vote no. Do you wish to speak to the article?
Yes, Mr. Moderator.
You're recognized.
Ann Palmer, Precinct 7. I'm just wondering how many other enterprise funds we have in this town. I believe there's one in the Park Department.
How many enterprise funds we have?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's a good question. Do we have any enterprise funds? All right, who can answer that question? Mr. Cronin? You're recognized. Selectman Agostino is recognized.
Thank
Are
you.
there any enterprise funds in the town of Milton now?
This is the 1996 June 30th year-end financial statements. The front page letter was signed October 4th, 1996. We just received this last Thursday. Under the financial statement, you will see governmental fund types. As I said at the beginning, it says general, special revenue, capital projects. The towns that have enterprise funds, there's an additional column under governmental fund types. Milton shows no such enterprise funds listed. And unfortunately, since the CPA can't speak, that's all we have to go on.
So is the answer none?
None.
None is the answer. Okay. Anybody else wish to speak to Article 43? Mr. Joyce, you want to be recognized?
Just questioning if you skipped Article 39.
No, I got a vote on Article 38. And then the debate started on 39. I believe the proponents accepted the comment that it couldn't take effect anyway. So I've just checked with the clerk, who assures me my memory has not faded that quickly. Anybody else? Anybody wish to? We're on 43. All right. If you're voting for the article, you're voting aye. If you're voting no, you're voting with the recommendation of the Warrant Committee. The article be defeated. All those in favor of the article say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The article is defeated. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to Monday at 7:30. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.
to the commentary after the session of Thursday evening, May 8th. I don't know what to say. We saw something out there tonight that, frankly, is rather distressing. We spent great time on Tuesday evening on a school budget that ended up having 0.2% difference, and we spent 4 hours on it. We spent 3 hours tonight simply asking the legislature to pass something that would give us possibilities of doing something. I see coming across increasingly in the debate tonight people raising questions about the very capability of the people who have been elected. Our town-wide elections generally bring forth the great majority of people who have ability, competence, and we stop doubting them because we don't agree with them. One person tonight was speaking made the comment that he just, this thing about Quarry Hills coming in here now, he was quite disturbed. He got a notice for a meeting, it was much too short, overlooking the fact that the selectmen have been involved with this for 6 or 7 years. They've been having study committee after study committee, all sorts of information coming to them on an ongoing basis. If I fail to keep myself informed, I cannot accuse them of being incompetent. I have to look at myself in terms of my willingness to put in the time at it. I saw that in a number of issues tonight. I don't want to enumerate them all at this late hour, but we do have a dimension showing up in our town meeting. I haven't seen it in 20 years here. There's a negative tone coming in, a willingness to tear down the whole integrity of somebody else because his ideas are different from yours. It's distressing. We saw, as I said earlier, that we would have most likely tonight a discussion on the enterprise funds. Here again, we were talking as though this was a vital issue that's going to determine whether the town government is going to survive or not, almost, to hear some of those statements in there tonight. It was absolutely absurd. Enterprise funds is a way for an accountant to keep a record. It's as simple as that. And it's been that way for a long time. Some of the literature was passed out at town meeting tonight. You would have no chance to see that. But they're talking about the GASBs, the so-called Government Accounting Standards Board. What is that? It's a group of accountants who make recommendations on how governments can keep their records. We had a study committee on this for several years. They looked into it thoroughly, and their recommendation, and they were competent men. One of them an international vice president of an international corporation. Another man much involved with accounting principles and how they're devised and developed. Very capable people who looked at this in great detail. We cannot ignore these people. They meet, they discuss, they explore, they come back and recommend. We must not deny them the ability to tell us what ought to be. They've studied it. The fact does not mean that they lack in integrity. We've got to watch that in our proceedings here. Next week we're going to have some interesting things. We're going to appropriate money, I hope, for the library, the cemetery, and the parks. Another big topic that will be coming up early next week, full of trust. I have to say, though, here we are again, ready to close up, and we're now going to go into our second week. When was the last time we went into 2 weeks of town meeting? If you know a town meeting member, if you know a selectman whom you saw tonight that was perhaps bringing in a bit of vitriol into the discussion, give them a call, tell them to cool it. Let's have a dispassionate, honest discussion of the facts. Thanks for being with us tonight. Look forward to seeing you again on Monday night when we start session number 4 of town meeting of 1997. Thank you and good night.